I am your host, Josh Grossman. With me, as always, Landon Rush. And I'll make a joke again, even though it's Landon's. Ted Lasso himself. Jeff, Landon.
Celebrity guest. Good, man.
Hi, guys. Good to be back. Missed
Jeff,
you boys.
Your screen was frozen. How is the wife liking the mustache?
Yeah, no, she's enjoying a little lip lettuce here the last couple weeks, and we went out and celebrated her birthday pretty hard. Took this little duster out for a night on the town, so I got to really take it all in, see the people's reaction, that sort of thing.
People are taking their children and going across the street.
Yeah, it's funny. We had
a shrieks and screams.
Yeah, so we had my daughter's 3-year-old birthday party was at Chuck E. Cheese about 2 weeks ago, and so I could not take the mustache out in public for that. So I still had the goatee at that point, but after that I shaved it all off. I just felt that they would immediately put a tag on me at the old Chuck E. Cheese. So
that is amazing. I love it. Just in case anybody's wondering why Jeff has the mustache, he lost the Rankum penalty a while ago, and so
4 weeks ago. Yeah.
Penalty was growing a mustache for Movember, and man, that's a mustache.
Yeah. I mean, it's legit. Can't pull that off, baby. This is actually on there.
It's great. First, a special thanks to Chris Rowland and Dave Bino for guest hosting Fantasy Inception. They did a great job.
Yes, they did.
It was great.
I've watched the entire way through the season. It's great. So hopefully they'll do that again.
Love that blooper reel at the end too. That was pretty silly.
It was. I watched it before they unedited, Chris, because I have access to. He was doing it through Riverside, what we use, and they were just fucking up so much. They were so what do I do? Do I start now? Wait, let's start over. I have to use the bathroom. It's amazing to watch it on that screen. So great job though. It is amazing.
It really shows the professionals from the amateurs, doesn't it?
I thought they did fantastic.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, who's the professionals and who's the amateurs?
So we will go through our Rankum recap. We'll do that pretty quickly because we've got a full show. We're going to do a little bit of our Dynasty League and Clowntown because we're getting close to the playoffs. So that'll be how our format is for probably the rest of the season. So we'll do a Clowntown recap, look at the standings, and then we're going to do a new segment called Strategy Session, in which we talk about the strategy, approaching the playoffs, in the playoffs, that type of thing. And then Jeff will do his weekly segment, and we'll look at Dynasty and go through some trades that might happen since this is the last week for trades in our Dynasty League. Jeff's penalty we see right now, but Landon, you lost week 11. Finder lost week 12. He's going to do his penalty next week, I believe. What is your penalty going to be for losing 2 weeks ago?
Well, I'm going to be talking with an accent, and that is Australian or English.
Going back and forth.
I don't know the difference, really.
That's better.
So, yes, I'll see how long I have to do this for.
You can stop anytime.
No.
Try to do a Mrs. Doubtfire one. That's how I've been able to.
Oh, children! My Mrs. Doubtfire! No!
Hello! You want to try my fruiting?
That's good.
I thought of a new one. We got to add it. So took the family out to the OG last night, Olive Garden.
Ooh, very nice.
I say that a penalty should be an all-you-can-eat salad and breadsticks for the entire show. See how much somebody can take down.
Wait, like a challenge to see how much you can eat, or just you're paying for it?
Do you have to podcast while at the OG?
No, not at the OG, but like you just you order in, we got to at least have a minimum. You got to take down at least 2 bags of breadsticks and 2 bowls of salad
That sounds
during the show.
That's not a penalty.
Oh man, it's pretty tasty.
Just to recap where we are with the Rankum Challenge. In week 12, I had the best rank, barely outdoing Jeff overall. Bender was the loser. Moreau, who was a first-time ranker, he had some free time, so he decided to participate. He was our best QB ranker, and then Moreau and Chris did the best with RBs. And Jeff, you were our best wide receiver rank. Overall season,
naturally, cornerback matchups. I know that stuff.
It's your golden ticket.
It's your bread and butter.
It's my forte.
Bread and butter. I have the lead overall to date with 75 points. Jeff, you are at 72. Fender's at 67. Landon, you're down the line. So
tanking. He's on for next year.
So I will send out Chris will send out the week 13 one. Rank them soon, and we'll do that. Let us look at Clowntown, which Landon should be excited about since he's
Clowntown. Hello.
Yeah. All right, so the standings as we have it, we have 3 weeks left. 4 teams make the playoffs. The standings over the last 2 weeks haven't really changed at the top. The bottom has gotten a little worse and kind of farther out of it. But we have Chris and Matt in first and second, BJV and Landon at 7 and 5 at third and fourth, and then Bryden at 6 and 6, and Jeff and myself and a few others just under that. What I want to do first is, guys, give me something that surprised you. One thing that surprised you over the last 2 weeks, whether it's NFL specific or league specific. What's one thing that has surprised you? Jeff, Mustache Man.
Yeah, so I'd say the biggest surprise, just all season long, has been the play of Josh Jacobs. That guy's going to make a lot of money at the end of the season, because I don't know if you know, but Las Vegas had the option to give him a 5th year. They declined that option, and so now he's just out there rolling, and they're either going to have to pay him or he's going to hit the free agency market, and they're going to be backing up the truck to sign him somewhere. So,
what do you think happens? Where do you think? Because RB's especially, he's not old, but he's 24 right now.
25 next year.
He's pretty young.
Yeah, so I would. Josh McDaniels, I think, has like an affection for this guy at this point. I think they look to try to re-sign him, and I think they try to look to get a deal done before the end of the season. Now it's going to have to be, aggressive. And if he goes to the free agency market, could he maybe make more money than what they're going to offer him? Yes, I do believe that. But they do have the chance. They do have the chance to sign him to an extension, before the end of the season.
Can they franchise him, or do they lose that if they don't do the 5th year?
I think they lose that if.
Okay.
So certainly, that has been one of my biggest takeaways of the season. A guy that was going dirt cheap, dropping in every snake draft, and I don't even know what his auction value was, but man, I'm sure I had the dollars to buy him at some point. So, and then I'll just say, rookie play in general. It's really come on. Just in general, running backs, wide receivers. It's really come on strong here late in the back half of the season. Whether that be due to injury or these guys getting maybe caught up to speed with the plays, schemes, whatever it might be. But I think it's just a reminder to stay patient during the season with these guys. I'm thinking specifically about Walker, Pacheco, Watson, and then now Rachaad White.
Yeah, it's hard because.
I get it. Yeah, I know. If they can sit out on the waivers there for, the first 4 weeks of the season, and then you can look to kind of pounce on them maybe 2 weeks before they really start to blossom. That's really the ideal situation, right? But you never know, like an injury to say that, like
he accidentally drafts one of them, they're just on their team forever. doing
And I mean, Romeo Dobbs looked like the real deal before, he kind of went down, and now, Watson's really just emerged into that role. So it's, yeah.
Yeah. Landon, what's something that surprised you?
Yes. Well, I decided to talk about. I have a affection for this guy because he's on my team. But Christian Watson is who I wanted to talk about. Not to toot my own horn here, but I lost Jamar Chase for a while, and this accent's going all over the place. But Christian Watson, I decided to spend the rest of my money on, and it's paid off so far. He has 6 touchdowns over his last 3 games, which is more than Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, and Deebo Samuel have all season. And I saw a very good tweet. It was the guy from Reception Perception that compared Christian Watson to Martavis Bryant, which I thought was a very good comp. Just a guy that has blazing speed that could take any pass he can get. He can take it to the house. He's got a 4.28 40 speed. He makes fast guys look slow, and I'm really happy to have him on my team for the stretch run here.
Yeah, I saw that speed in that Philadelphia game with that Jordan Love
just a little slant
reception.
pass, take it 60 yards, gone.
Yeah, 10-yard catch and run, maybe 15, but yeah.
Yeah, so I thought he was dead. So
yeah,
that was amazing.
You drafted him, didn't you? I mean, I think you had him on your bench, didn't you?
No, I had Dobbs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I cut him before the season started. My surprise is league specific, and it's just, I don't know if it's a surprise or not, but just bad luck. Bino, Admore, bench spots has had, and I think it's been pretty much season long, but the last 2 weeks he's had really tough losses where he's put up a lot of points. He scored the 5th most, and I want to say the 3rd most over the last 2 weeks, and lost both of those games.
He has the second most points in our league.
Thank you, George Kittle. Peace. Yes, my boy.
Yeah. So
Monday Night Miracle.
Some bad luck there, but that's my surprise. Guys, with 3 weeks left, give me your prediction for which 4 teams make the playoffs. Len.
I will go with Crispy Taco. Olave can stay. Child, please. And BC's Touch Nation. Sorry,
Yeah.
BJV.
Yeah, Crispy Taco, Olave can stay, child, please. Between BJV, Touchdown My Pants, Low Score Wins, BC's Touch Nation, and Danza All-Stars, I got to go
Danza
with,
making a run.
Yeah.
Ooh, crazy.
I honestly, I was like, I'm at a loss for maybe who wraps up that 4th spot. I want to give it to myself, but I'm going to have to win out here and have a little back-end luck. I don't think my team is really that great. We're just trying to get in. I don't love BC's team at this point. I know he's got Josh Allen. I honestly think Danza has the best team, of all of us out there.
Well, let's look real quick at. See, I know that I don't have a chance because I have an impossible schedule, but who does Danza play? So he plays Crispy. That's not good. And then not so big. So that's winnable. But you basically, one of those 5 and 7 teams, for them to make it, they have, like you said, Jeff, they have to win out. So I
wish I would have had more time to really dig into because week 14 is going to be a hellish bye week. It's like 6 teams on bye or something like that, crazy or something. So, whoever can maybe get the benefit of the doubt in their matchup to where, they're playing guys where their starters are out, that really could be a big boost, I think, going into that final week.
Your schedule actually is not that bad. So I'd say it's between you and BC. I don't think BJB has the roster to be able to do it. Although
he's also not making any moves. He didn't make any moves last night. I mean, come on, bro.
We need to do what's it called when you have the police go over to someone's house?
When what?
Check?
Oh, see if he's alive or something.
A wellness check?
The dead man wins the league.
He's made 8 moves all year.
I know. That's the frustrating part. We should go kick him out of the league. And he doesn't watch the show, and that's why we should kick him out. All right. Let us talk strategy. So we're going to do, this week we'll focus on redraft. We might go back and forth between redraft and dynasty. So we'll start with the strategy session on the playoff push. So we're going to break this down into 2 parts. I want you guys to give me some strategy, and I'm going to ask you some questions. If you are one of those top teams where you're locked in, you really don't have to worry about making the playoffs. And then the second part would be, what's the strategy if you are fighting for those playoff spots? You know, BJV, Landon, I think you're going to end up being pretty much in, but BJV, Landon, DC, maybe touchdown. So we'll start with the 2 locked-in teams. Crispy Taco at 9-3. Olave can stay at 8-4. My first question for you guys is, when it comes to RB backups, if you're locked into the playoff, what is your strategy in terms of rostering them? Rostering your own, rostering other people's backups? What do you think works best at this time of the year when you're locked into the playoffs? Landon.
Sure. Can I ditch the accent, or should I keep going with it?
How about you try an English accent as an American?
English like this?
No, American.
Oh, okay. So there's only a handful of running backs out there on the waiver wire material, I guess, that are like, you know, if there was an injury, that they would take over just completely for that starter. So, I mean, looking at like Rolance's team, his big running backs are Jacobs, Patterson, Eckler, and Fournette. Fournette, Rachaad White, he's gone. Algier is owned for Patterson. Eckler, I just think that there would be a committee if he were to go down. I don't think there's just one guy that's on the waiver wire. I forgot that guy's name. It's not it's Isaiah Spiller was thought of at one point of his backup. Then it was what's the other guy's name?
Sony Michel. There's another guy too. I don't think that there's anyone worth rostering that would. You lose Eckler. I mean, you can't replace that.
Let's zoom out a little bit. Let's say you've made the playoffs. Don't think specifically about the 2 teams, but you're basically not in the playoff.
Yeah.
It sounds like your strategy is, for sure, if you have a player who you're RB1, if it's ambiguous after that, there's no point in trying to roster the backup. What if it's someone, I'm trying to think of, like,
I mean, Fender has Dalvin Cook, and Alexander Madison is on the waiver wire, so he should be absolutely picking up Alexander Madison.
Okay, what about so yours is lock up your own RBs because I think those guys end up staying on the waivers for most of the season.
Correct.
Jeff, what's your take? Do you agree? Do you try to lock up others RB backups, or because a lot?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a fan of a good C block. Don't get me wrong, right? A little cock block, but hey. The one thing I'm looking to do this late in the season, if I'm in a position to win, it's building out as much depth as I possibly can, and that's not necessarily going after other RBs. It's guys that are in positions to have, you know, at least a role in the stretch run, and that might make for challenging start-sit decisions down the road as you get into the championship games, but. You know, I agree with Landon that there's only maybe 2 or 3 actual running backs where I want to make sure if I have that stud running back that I have their backup. Madison is a great example of that.
ETN got injured last week and Hasty went off.
Yeah,
would you if you had ETN and you made the playoffs, would you be looking to roster hasty like that, or is it really only a massive?
So I think it goes from at that point, like you have an RB1. Yeah, they do. You're right, and I think at that point it goes from like an RB1 to say a flex play. I mean, there's just certain things like that you probably want to look to gain depth by adding somebody, but I'm not going to go out there and blow my entire fab budget on one of those guys just to replace somebody as a flex play. And the reason being is because we've seen in the past the fab dollars can be so valuable when it gets into the actual playoffs because that amount of money that we have left over carries on into the playoffs.
We all have $0, by the way.
I realize we do, yes. But there are people out there that have more money, and I would make sure that the price is right before spending, half my wad on, say, like a Zamir White just because Jacobs is a little sore. He had the same calf issue going into that Seattle game, and we did see him hit the sidelines, but then he came back in and busted out a 86-yard run or whatever, right? So,
But don't you also think like you kind of have a set starting lineup for the most part? So I mean, I understand like you're saying like depth and you want players that you could plug in, but I mean it would be if you have a stud running back that has a stud backup, you should be rostering that backup.
No, see, I think the depth really plays more into you don't want your opponents to be able to put those guys in their rosters either or in their lineups. Like, that guy's out there and you're like, man, that guy could potentially have a big week in week 15 or I guess for us 16, right? Yeah, like I'm looking to build that guy out, put him on my team. I want to make sure that those points sit on my bench and not on somebody else's starting lineup, right?
Yeah, my thought is, I think a combination of what you guys are saying. Where I would look if I had, Dalvin Cook, I would look to roster Madison. If I had Eckler, I don't think there's a point in trying to roster your backup. But then I'd look at, like a Samaje Perine or someone like that who we saw last week go off when Mixon was out for that exact reason that you just pointed out, Jeff. Sure, you might not play them because you don't trust them, but you don't want 30 points, 20 points going off on your, on your competitor's bench.
I don't want 20 touches going into the hands of my competitors, right? And that's a P. Ryan. Like, that's a great example as well. That's just another he's moving right. He'll move right into the mix and roll and play basically 80% of the snaps of that game. So
he's one of the handful.
Another great example there
And we see teams seem to be very willing to just, they won't give their number, their RB1 the full workload because they're worried about injury, but that RB2, fuck them. 40 carries and it's fine. So, all right, next question. If you are a team, this is defense specific. If you're a team that has a manager that has a good defense, like Buffalo, Dallas, Philly, something like that, but you have bad matchups in the playoffs, you see already you're not going to have good matchups. And you see that there's teams that are not consistent or not great defenses, but they have fantastic matchups. They go against Houston and the Colts. Do you pick up those other defenses either as a second defense or forget about it?
Yeah, so look, let me jump on this really quick because I think it plays into one thing I wanted to mention with the previous question is if you're at the top of the league, right, your leagues right now, I think you absolutely can be looking ahead to 2-3 weeks out and looking at those matchups and what players might potentially have. You look at the Steelers like matchups. I know Deontay Johnson isn't great, but you look at those matchups that he has, it's kind of a guy who's been the target leader that I would strongly consider putting on my team, just like I said, given those matchups and just kind of waiting to see early on. Because, I mean, he has 4 good matchups in a row. If he can do it 2 weeks in a row, maybe, okay, we'll slide him into that first flex spot or second flex spot, right? But as far as the defense goes,
I would never drop Deontay.
I am not a fan of holding on to 2 defenses. I'm not. I think I am very much in favor of taking the person to the dance that got you there, right? And because we even look back to this last week, there were a lot of people that were jumping on Denver's defense because, they had the Carolina matchup. And what we see, we saw a very mediocre performance by that Denver defense, and Carolina ended up winning the game, so they didn't get the points. But we've seen to where it's like team defense is so focused. I mean, you can get 35 points scored against you, right? That drops you down to 0. If they score a touchdown, an interception for a touchdown, all of a sudden that looks like a pretty solid week, and throw a couple of sacks in there. Okay, now they've just got you, 12 to 15 points, and that's really all you're trying to get out of a team defense, right? So I would go with the teams that can get to the quarterback and make turnovers, really. Yep. And those seem to be the elite defenses.
Yeah, I agree with everything Geoff said, and I actually
thought you were on the other side. I thought you'd be on the other side.
Well, no, I mean, I actually do have two defenses right now. I picked up Kansas City's defense. Just because the next
you're gonna play this week?
No, they play at Cincinnati this week, and I'm going with Tampa Bay, I think, against New Orleans. But then in week 14, they're at Denver. Then they play Houston. Then they go to Seattle, or at home against Seattle. Not the greatest matchup, and then Denver again. So. Nice. I mean, that's just – and they're a decent defense. You have some defenses out there like this week, and we'll see how it is because I think, Grossman, you have them. Like Cleveland's defense, they're playing Houston, which is a fantastic matchup for defenses, but Cleveland actually has the lowest amount of fantasy points in the entire NFL, at least in our setting. So I don't know if you play a bad defense against a really good team or, a mediocre defense that has a mediocre matchup. So we'll see how that turns out. Hopefully not well for Grossman, but I don't think you should have two defenses, but there's a playoff schedule that Kansas City had that I couldn't turn down.
No, that's solid.
Yeah,
I didn't. Yeah. Let me just say, I mean, I think you can do that because you are in a position within our playoff structure right now to where it looks like you're probably going to get in, and so you can certainly look to do that. Myself, who's on the outside looking in, I don't think I really can do that right now.
Sure.
No, agreed. Any other strategies that you guys have for, again, those teams that are kind of locked into the playoffs?
They're locked into the playoffs?
Yeah, that's what we're still on that. Fender. That type of scenario.
Yeah, I actually do have a question though. So we'll talk about both leagues, Dynasty, Clowntown. Like, where are we with when the playoffs start? Like, or even if a team's been eliminated, are they still able to access the waiver wire? I'm sure in Dynasty we probably do allow that.
In Clowntown, the past few years, I've turned that off.
That's good. Oh. That's good. I don't think anybody should be able to affect.
It stays on because there's
the consolation.
Dynasty, I get. I can understand that. I mean, you're looking for future and all this kind of stuff too, so it's hard to really put people in a position to where they're not able to make moves, and
Yep. So now we'll move to those teams fighting in to get in. First question, if I can find it.
And to answer the question, Landon, so for Clowntown, is that set to as the playoffs start? But like, what if a team's mathematically eliminated? Like, they can't get in even if they win out from this point on. They can still make moves up until the playoffs?
Yeah.
See, I don't like that. But okay.
That'd take a lot of work on Landon's part to
I mean, I really think I can just block a team, but
yeah.
I don't.
Okay.
No.
So this is the teams that are fighting in, and maybe this is a little bit more specific to our league. So first question, I'm going to be talking about BJV, Landon, and Bryden, the three teams that are in 3, 4, 5. All three of those teams have 2 QBs, but their first QB is a top 5, 6 QB, and our league is 1 QB. So if you were those guys, which Landon, you are, so it shouldn't be hard for you to put yourself in your own shoes. Would you be rostering that second QB, or does it not make sense to use the limited bench spot for that type of second QB that you're never going to play?
Well, if I could speak for myself, I mean, I'm just, Lamar has been pretty disappointing lately for me, and again, he just had an injury pop up today, I think. So he's on the injury report every week, and I'm not thrilled with him, and I definitely don't want to drop him. So I picked up what I thought was the best QB available out there was Brady, and I may actually play Brady this week. I'm still deciding, but
injury, it's not like trying to, make sure your opponent doesn't have that QB or anything like that.
To quote Geoff, there's nothing wrong with a good C block, but I would have loved to have Deshaun Watson on my team, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, look, I live and die. What? You know where I am? You know where I stand on this? Like, I live and die by just rostering one QB, with the exception of myself right now, where I have two QBs on my team. If one is a stud and he's injured, then obviously you got to play somebody else in that position, right? Like I have Fields. I'm not dropping Fields. I'm not dropping a guy that can give me 40 points. And it pains me right now because I look at that roster spot and I see value in it more than like just holding on to that second QB. But I can't. I mean, once Fields gets healthy, if he's playing, like he's right back in there. I'd slide him this week. I'm probably rolling with Lawrence, even if he does come back.
Watson.
What's that?
Would you keep Watson still just in case Fields gets re-injured?
Oh, Watson. Yeah, I got Watson. Yeah. So, yeah, that's if Fields is if Watson goes out and balls out, which I do believe might happen, but if he balls out, I would very much look at dropping Fields depending on what's available on the waiver wire. But I have $0, so I can't really claim anything either. So I'd probably just look to play the matchups once I move into if I get into the playoffs at that point.
They should just shut him down.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what I think is going to happen. I want that to come out. I want them to say that so that I can open up these freaking bench spots.
Yeah.
Like one tight end, one QB, one defense. That's how I roll. Everything else on the bench is stashed of running backs and wide receivers.
Yeah, similar question as the first one. All three of the teams that I mentioned that are fighting for the last two spots, again, including Landon.
Especially in a 10-team league. I hate the Clowntown. We just hoard freaking QBs. It's so stupid.
It's so annoying. Those three teams have two tight ends, but their number one tight end is a legit number one. So it's not like they're starting to, mediocre tight end. Landon, maybe just turning back to you, why? What's the strategy there? I think we all know Jeff, and I agree with Jeff. There's no reason to have two tight ends.
I only have one tight end.
There's one exception to tight end.
I only have Njoku.
Did you cut someone?
No,
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever had two. That's a position I would never have two.
All right. Maybe it was two of the three. Okay. But I think we're all agreed. There's no point in having two tight ends on your team.
One exception to that rule is Isaiah Likely to handcuff Mark Andrews.
Sure. Yes.
That's the only exception.
Good point.
When you're dealing with injuries, yeah. All right, last question. We talked about what you would do if you were kind of locked into the playoffs with regard to backing up your RBs. Is it similar strategy if you are fighting to get into the playoffs? Do you look to back up your own RBs? Do you look to back up others' RBs and try to have the biggest ceiling? What do you do there?
I think
you got to play to win.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think
you can't focus on the future.
That should be considering.
Okay.
Land in one word and then.
Okay, you first.
Yeah, if you're fighting for a playoff, if you're fighting for a playoff spot, you cannot have backups on your team. You need to get as much. That's where I think depth is extremely important. That you need to have players that you can plug in and hopefully get you big points, and you just need to focus on winning that particular week.
I think BJV is the only team that really should even consider backing up these RBs that he has on his. Because, I mean, those are his studs. Those are his
starting RBs.
I get that, but I'm just saying, like, you're talking about, like, the Derrick Henrys, the Joe Mixons, which I don't even think he can because I think Pete Ryan's owned, and the Jonathan Taylors. Those guys are – because those are his studs. Like, those guys are carrying his team every single week.
And Jamaal Williams.
I would look to freaking Jamaal Williams. That guy, unbelievable.
Is Swift on the waivers yet, Jeff?
What?
Since Swift is Williams back up.
I hate Swift. I hate Williams. I hate Detroit. I hate everything about this.
Here's my theory. They are so out of the playoffs, and he is not the type of RB who you need to be like. He's great. So just why waste him this year if he's
no, you don't know my theory? Here's my theory is that I don't know if you guys saw this year's Hard Knocks with Detroit. Okay. And you saw Jamaal Williams like make the heartfelt speech, about how bad they were last year and tears, right? Like, so I think Dan Campbell just loves this guy and he just wants to see him have all the success and
Swift just can't stay healthy.
He didn't stay healthy for a minute, but he's fine. Like, these injuries didn't even look that bad. Like, the ankle didn't look that bad. Like, and it's been plenty of time. He got into the end zone during the Thanksgiving Day game, right? And then what happens? He's down. Now he's on the goal line. Like, you're not going to give Swift another chance to get back into the freaking end zone? No, you give Jamaal Williams 3 freaking touchdowns. Like, give me a break. You can't give him one of these goal line carries? Just one.
Yeah.
Guy doesn't need 3 touchdowns in a game.
Just draft Swift next year. Trust me.
I'm never touching him again unless he's on a different team. He's so talented. I'm never unless he's on a different team, I'm never touching him again.
Yeah, let's do your.
I have to start him. It's so frustrating. I have to start him.
Hans, cornerback, something. Do your segment.
Oh, God. All right. It's my turn. All right. Here we go. Sorry. I was just sitting there sulking. Welcome. Huddle up. Gather around. Let's talk about who we're going after this week and who we are trying to avoid. All right. So I love the Jacksonville receivers this week. I mean, we go through this every single week. Pick on Detroit. We don't like Jeff Okudah. We don't like Amani Umuare. Right. So we're targeting Christian Kirk and Mr. Zay Jones. Like them both this week. Zay Jones has been super, having just like 4 big weeks here in a row. So, I mean, the fact that he was out there on waivers run last night, awesome. I mean, good pickup by, I think, Fender, who maybe still had some money. But yeah, here's the thing about what happened. I know Christian Kirk came off a down game the week before against Baltimore. Humphrey traveled with him most of the game last week, which opened up and gave a lot of success to Zay Jones. So I do think Christian Kirk looks to bounce back here. He's going to go against Jeff Okudah, who's letting up a 71% catch rate. And then, like I said, Amani Umuare, 3 touchdowns this season. 4 touchdowns this season. Like, give me a break. This guy's toast. So love the Jacksonville receivers. Love everything about him. And Trevor Lawrence looked great in that game. So I think we're seeing the emergence of Trevor Lawrence a little bit. If he can bring that same energy from last week into this week, I think we're looking at a big blowout for the Jags. All right, here's a kind of a tricky one. I think you're gonna get some question marks with this one. But Deebo Samuel going into the Dolphins.
Question mark.
Hear me out with this one, okay? So hear me out. The Dolphins feature cover 3 coverage the most of any team in the NFL.
Go ahead.
All right. Jimmy Garoppolo is the number 2 quarterback against cover 3 coverage this year, and Deebo is the number 2 wide receiver against cover 3 matchups. So I do believe that they're going to have some success given that structure, and I also think that we're going to look at Deebo getting a little bit more involved in the run game, given some of the injuries that we've seen recently. He can tote the rock. So they rest a little bit of CMC and they just give Deebo a handful more carries. We'll see. But if Deebo lines up against Justin Bethel out of the slot, who's averaging 15.5 yards per catch, good night. So love me some Deebo. George Pickens.
Can I jump in?
I have something to say about Deebo as well.
And then this is a tweet that I saw, so it's not like I know anything about anything. What the tweet was that the Dolphins run man coverage a greater percent than any other defense, and that Ayuk is like one of the best man coverage receivers in the league, and he's just going to tear. So
yeah, Justin Bethel
matches corner. Landon.
I saw a good tweet about Deebo. His target shares before CMC arrived were 23, 24, 29, 29, 30, and 25%. Post CMC, 14, 17, 32, which is good, and 14%. So CMC is really there. It says the CMC is battling for the same low ADOT target. So he's taken up Deebo Samuel's role. So I hopefully, this is Hahndо's Huddle.
You guys want your own segment, you can have it, okay? But this is my segment, okay? So back to my stuff. All right, George Pickens. I love me some George Pickens this week. He grew up in Atlanta. I'm not sure if you know. He grew up rooting for the Atlanta Falcons. I do expect to see a touchdown from him this week. And he's going to be going against Rashad Fenton and B. Alford. So look for him to get into the end zone. All right. So I like Jamar Chase coming back. T. Higgins. They're going against Kansas City. We all expect a shootout in that one. Watson and Fenton. Fenton's giving up 13.7 per catch, so I don't know which wide receiver it's going to be this year. I mean, in this particular game, like there's usually one that stands out more than the other, but I like them both. So we'll just roll with that. Another upgrade. I love A.J. Brown this week in a revenge game, right, against the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, yeah.
The Titans do a really good job on the outside with their defensive ends containing. So I do believe that they'll contain Hurts to have to make pocket passes. And so I love both A.J. Brown. I do expect to see Devonta Smith get a little love as well out of this game. But whether either one's facing Kristen Fulton, who's allowed a 75% catch rate, or Terrence Mitchell, who's allowed 19.3 yards per catch, I think both of them will have some success this week. And then finally, Christian Watson. If they line him up in the slot where he's going to face Kyler Gordon for the Bears, like Kyler Gordon's the worst cornerback in all of the NFL. He's got an 80% catch rate. Like it's over. Now the question mark becomes like old man who usually plays the slot in Green Bay, Randall Cobb. Thank you. If he's lined up in the slot, then that's going to eat it. But they're going to have to get Watson in there involved in the slot, get him some action, especially if Love's playing. Downgrades. Okay. Diggs is on my list for Thursday Night Football only because the Belichick theory, right? I mean, they usually try to take away a team's best top catcher. And look, you got to play Diggs if you have him in our setup. But I'm just saying, like, I'd be a little worried. He's going to see double coverage. I'm sure of it. So I'd just be a little bit concerned for that. Chris Olave scares me a little bit. Most likely going to go against Jamal Dean or Carlton Davis. I mean, there's really no other pass options in New Orleans other than Olave. And so I just think these guys are only allowing like 5 and 7 yards per catch respectively. It's really going to be a tough matchup for him this week. Mike Evans in the same game. Lattimore's on track to be back this week. We know the history between these two. We saw Evans get tossed in week 2 for the fight with these two guys. So he did have 3 catches out of 4 targets for 61 yards, which is pretty nice. I mean, you get in the end zone, it's a pretty good day, but he's on my team. I'm probably not starting him this week. And then Treylon Burks, he's most likely going to see a Darius Slay shadow. So that's all I got, boys.
Great. Good stuff as always. All right, we're going to turn our attention to Dynasty. So first, I'm just going to review the standings very quick. So we have 2 weeks left before the playoffs. The trade deadline is this week. 6 teams make the playoffs. The first 5 make it by standings. The last spot goes to whoever has the most points for out of the remaining non-playoff teams. So we have Jeff in Chelan in first at 9-3, Bino 9-3 as well, Fender 9-3, Moreau is in fourth at 7-5, Geoff, you are in fifth at 7-5. The Jewish Ditka is in sixth at 6-6, and then a bunch of teams fighting for that last spot as well. So my first question is to you guys specifically. Both of you guys, especially with the way we have the format of that last spot going to the highest score, both of you guys are in a position to make the playoffs or at least, bring it down to the wire in terms of whether or not you're going to make it or not. But it seems like because of the trades that Bino and the Jewish Dicka have made and kind of the super teams that they've made, that a lot of the other managers, maybe you guys, I know a bunch of the other managers, are intimidated by them and basically have given up hope of winning this year to one of those guys. Is that, am I reading that right? Are you guys, I'm surprised that you guys aren't more, Landon, you sold way too early, in my opinion, a few weeks ago. Jeff, you haven't been a buyer yet, and it surprises me. So I kind of just wanted to understand your take there.
Yeah, I mean, I've shared a few. I know you know my strategy at this point, which is we're just riding this thing out. I mean, I'm not selling my future. Like, if anybody's like, for anybody that's ever done a dynasty league, and I have, like, trying to rebuild a team with having no like draft picks I'm talking first round draft picks. It's impossible. It's miserable. Like, you are going to be stuck. You look at our waiver wire out there now, that's just trash. It's just filled with garbage out there. No guys that you can even like put in as a plug and play option. So it's only gonna continue to be that. And you're just gonna be sitting there like, what do I do? Twiddling my thumbs. And now you're gonna be looking to try to make trades, but you can't, especially if you've already given away a lot of your draft picks, which I really think our league this year has undervalued the value of these draft picks, especially first rounders.
Do you, with the way we have which I don't know.
And so the fact that I'm sitting on two, I'm just holding on to those. I'm so excited for next year because I like the core of my team, and I think I can build my team around those two draft picks.
So the way that we
have 2 first rounders?
2, baby, mine and yours.
The way that we have
you got mine.
The draft picks, it's like you forget it every week. The way we have the draft picks set up in terms of the non-playoff teams, the teams that are going to get those first 6 spots, is not based on who has the least points for, but instead is going to be a consolation playoffs.
Yeah.
The better you do, the better your draft pick. So whoever wins that consolation playoffs gets that first pick in the draft. Jeff, you mentioned you have Landon's and yours. You also have players who are going to be really helpful for you now, but probably lose a decent amount of value once the season's over, particularly someone like Hopkins, who's 30 years old, who's playing out of his mind right now, but we saw last year he was garbage. So I guess maybe a confirmation, is your strategy, like, you could probably get a first, potentially, from him.
Yeah, no.
But then you're reducing the chance of getting one of those, the top 2, 3 draft picks. Or is your standing pat because of the way that we have that?
So here's my strategy. This is what's funny. Landon's tanking, and I think his team is good enough to win.
Yeah,
that's my draft pick.
Consolation playoffs.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could potentially have that draft pick as the number 1 overall. Now, I could also look to if my team somehow just backslide out of the playoffs at this point, which it very well could, given the injuries. And I look at my roster, I have more guys on IR than I have IR spots for. It's ridiculous. So my team could backslide. And if I do, then I still think I might have a chance to win that consolation bracket and still pick up for my own first round draft pick, the number 1 overall, right? So I feel like I'm going to be in a really good position if I were to say go fall back. But if I advance into the playoffs, just give me a seat in a chair, man. Just give me a chip in a chair, right? Like, let me in, and we'll just see what happens. We'll let the cards play out as they may. Who knows? Jonathan Taylor could have one of those 40, 50-point games for us. I mean, he could just go off and manhandle me, and I'll ride him again into another fantasy championship. I would love to see that happen. So, look, I feel like I'm in a very good position either way. If I do think I have a better chance of winning the consolation bracket, sure. But I also think Landon has a pretty good chance of winning that thing too. And so as long as one of us falls into the consolation games, yes, baby, let me go. We're just going to play this out.
All right, I'm gonna go to the next question, and Landon, this will be to you initially. The way we saw this year play out was, again, especially the Jewish Dika and Geno, really sold a lot of their assets to try to make a super team, and then you end up with a couple teams that look like they have super teams. And I think it's especially for the Jewish Dika, it's very.
It's this year. It's this year. It has to be this year.
Do you think we see this as a routinely every year? We're going to see one or two teams really sell the farm to have a super team, or is it going to be more even where Tinder, Sheelan, Moreau, any of those teams, your 5 or 6 teams that any of them could win? Landon.
Yeah, I don't have any experience in Dynasty. This is my first year doing it, so I
Can
really
you get a little closer to the camera for us, please?
I don't know what the answer is.
Is this thing working?
So I don't know, but I do think my mentality when I thought that I had a chance was, sell the farm to win. I mean, that's what you do. And so I think that's going to happen. I would imagine that would happen every year, that people are wanting to do that. But maybe it will change when you don't have draft picks to give up. And I don't know. I would imagine it would be more the same like this every year. But
okay, we'll move on because
No, I got to touch on this. So I do believe that Geno has put himself in a very nice position to have success long term, even with his current team. And
as long as no one gives him a second QB, we'll be okay though.
Right. But I'll say this: I do not foresee this happening every single year, because I think people are going to realize the value of the first round pick moving forward, and that it is. I'm telling you guys, it is so important. You got to hang on to those like they're gold. And so just to toss them away for a Baker
Mayfield
running back, yeah. I mean,
so I 2 things. One, I think this year and maybe next year we do see it again, mainly because you have a ton of specifically RBs who are elite but really old, where they're not going to be there long term, so sell them and you can still get a decent amount of value. Also, and I've only looked at this is my first year of Dynasty as well, but I've looked a lot at rookie ADPs in the past. It really feels like those what you're saying, Jeff, about the first, all first rounders are valuable, but if you really think your first is going to be a late first, I'd rather have I'd sell a late first for Marquise Brown. I'd rather have something that's going to help me this year and hopefully for a few years. If it's an early first, or if I maybe not making playoffs and going to make that consolation playoffs, totally agree with you.
It's one of the top 5. You got to that thing is just so valuable. I want to. So I got CMC as it was actually a second overall pick. The guy took Fournette ahead of me in my Dynasty League one year. So I got CMC as the backup, and then I ended up winning the Dynasty. I ended up winning the Dynasty League. I want to say it was 2 years after that, just because it was really all because of CMC. That was the year where he just went bananas in Carolina, and yeah. So, anyways,
okay. Next question. So we have it, as I mentioned. We have kind of 2 rules that are new, at least to us in our redraft league. One being that the 6th spot in the playoffs goes to the high score, and then the second being the consolation playoffs. And I just want your take on whether or not those rules are good or are the type of thing that maybe we revisit in the future. The first one, with the 6th spot going to most points scored out of the remaining teams. Do you guys, obviously we're not there yet in terms of playoffs, but we see, I think my personal opinion is Landon's going to end up getting that 6th spot. Even though he'll be 9th or 10th, 9th in the standings. So do you guys like that rule? Do you think it should just be whoever's 1 through 6 in the standings should make it?
No, I love that rule. I think this is the best thing. I love it. I think every league should have this, including Clowntown. But points are what are most valuable in fantasy football. Points, every single week, right? So the manager who earned the most points should be entitled to get a run into the playoffs. That's them making the best sit decisions throughout the course of the year, or maybe just because they had a great draft, I guess. But it eliminates the luck factor of having a great schedule, facing the right teams on the right weeks. Stuff that's completely out of your control. We want to have the things that we can control in fantasy football be something that allows us to win a fantasy championship, and that is start sit decisions, most points.
Okay, second rule was the consolation playoffs, determining those first 6 spots rather than, least points gets the number one pick.
Love that as well. I mean, I just love the fact that guys can go out.
Good rules, Grossman. Really good.
My concern with that one is a team
that tanks. You're screwed. Yeah, you're getting the 6th spot, pick.
Yeah, if you're just a bad team, if you had a bad startup draft, you're kind of fucked for a while. You're going to end up with that 5th or 6th spot rather than the number 1, which could really, push you towards rebuilding. So that's my only concern with that. But we'll see.
You got to try to eliminate tanking somehow, and I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, and also I think we'd see a lot more trading if it wasn't, especially right now if that rule wasn't there. And I like trades, but agreed. All right, we have the trade deadline being this week at the end of this week, Monday. So I'm going to throw out a bunch of trades to you guys, and I want you to put yourself in the shoes of these managers and tell me whether it's a good trade, bad trade for one of them. Again, with our settings and consolation playoffs and all that in mind. All right. The first one is between Zell and Bino. Would you trade 38-year-old Aaron Rodgers to Bino for Goff?
Yeah, if I was Zell, I absolutely would, but I'm not into buying a 38-year-old QB. I mean, I look at Tom Brady as the exception to the rule, and, I don't think – Rodgers doesn't necessarily appear to be dwindling. Yes, he's gotten a few injuries dinged up this season, that sort of thing, but, I'm not into buying, again, like I said, a 38-year-old QB. And then, plus, I'm pretty sure Bino has Aaron Jones on his team. So I wouldn't want to do that to where you have both the running back and the quarterback.
Landon, do you agree? Or, I don't know if Goff – I assume he's going to be a starter somewhere, but he's not – his job security isn't necessarily there next year.
Yeah, I don't think I would do that. If Rodgers still had Devontae Adams, that might be a different story, but he doesn't have him, and maybe Christian Watson is the next Devontae Adams, but probably not, so I would not make that trade.
Okay, next one. If you are Kevin, would you trade Elijah Moore to Chewan for Calvin Ridley, and vice versa? Would you do that if you were Chewan?
Not interested in the guy we haven't seen play football for 2 years and soon to be 3, honestly, so Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, do you think those guys just automatically go away? Because I certainly don't. Christian Kirk has been a staple in this Jacksonville offense. I don't think Ridley's going to see another 1,300-yard season like we saw 3 years ago. So, no, I'm not interested in that trade either way.
Yeah, I'm not either. Zay Jones is kind of on the older side, I believe. I think he's 28, if I'm not mistaken. But, yeah, is Ridley even for sure going to come back? He was not in the greatest mental state that he didn't want to play football. So, that's no guarantee. And, Elijah Moore's hasn't been good at all, taking a backseat to Garret Wilson for sure, but I'd rather have Moore.
All right, next one. If you were me, would you trade Metcalf Cheelan for Breece Hall? And if you were Cheelan, vice versa, would you do it?
That's a really tough one. I probably would, but the ACL injury, even though, they come back, players come back all the time from ACLs now, just trading away.
Yeah, fine.
What's that?
I got an interesting stat on that I can share with you guys, but after
it takes
3
a year
seasons,
to come back.
Guys with ACL injuries are not necessarily guaranteed the success that you think. Modern medicine is amazing, and I know that Breece Hall is young, but I'm just saying these guys immediately when they come back, usually after the ACL, they'll have a hamstring injury. That we've seen that with guys already this year. J.K. Dobbins comes to mind, and then now that's set out for another half of the season. But it's actually after 3 years. It's interesting. Only 25% of the players who have had an ACL injury end up staying in the league 3 years or longer.
So I think if you dissect that info, dissect's not the right word. You age at the time of ACL as well as position, although RB is not the best for that.
Yeah.
And then Dobbins ACL and Javonte Williams, I think is fucked. I think he's that exactly what you're saying in terms of next year he's going to be bad. he's gonna have the Dobbins route. But Hall, I don't know. We'll see.
So are you interested in inquiring Breece Hall? Do you think he's going to – I mean, yeah, earlier in the season he looked like he was going to be a number 1 through 3 pick. But I don't think Metcalf is ever going to be at that level, ever. Like, whether Geno continues his success or what.
Ever at – sorry, what level?
Like a 1 through 3, 4 range pick, like the first through fourth round, like first 1 through 4 pick of the draft. Where Breece Hall did kind of look like that earlier in the season.
Yeah.
Until
I'm keeping Metcalf because of the consolation playoffs, but otherwise I would trade him for Breece. Mm-hmm. If you are Landon, again, Landon shouldn't be hard for you. Would you trade Marquise Brown to Deju for Christian Kirk and Deju's 2024 second rounder?
I would.
Landon?
No.
Okay. I would prefer Kirk in the second round, honestly.
Oh, so we have
interesting. Got to back away. I don't know. Marquise Brown, he's young. He's locked up with a good quarterback for the rest of his career, maybe, if he stays in Arizona. So, I don't know. I think the ceiling's higher for Marquise Brown.
I agree. I think that's why I threw in the second rounder. If you are Blackman, would you trade 29-year-old Kittle to Moreau for Dawson Knox and Moreau's 2023 second rounder?
29-year-old.
I don't know where Landon is, so let's go with Jeff.
Moreau.
Yeah, I actually kind of like this trade. I actually like it more, I think, for the Blackman side. Okay. Like if he could pull that off, than I would for Moreau. But I think it's a good deal for both.
I think Moreau, the way I was thinking about it was he's competing. So, not giving points. All right, Jeff, this is for you. Would you trade Hopkins to Finder for Cup?
No. I have very little interest in Cup. Finder should probably try to do this deal, but no, I have no interest in giving away Hopkins for Cup at this point.
Do you think next year Hopkins
I don't see Hopkins going away just like because he's hit 30 at this point. I really don't. I mean, this guy has amazing hands. Is
it only for the consolation play? Like Cup this year would have, if both were healthy, Cup would be a better receiver.
Sure.
Again, if both are healthy.
Well, Cup this year, I don't think. I mean, Stafford is certainly a benefit of. I mean, Cup is certainly a benefit of Stafford being healthy, and Stafford's not healthy. So, I mean, the Rams are dead to me in general. Like, I just look at this team, like, I want nothing to do with them whatsoever, and I don't see it getting any better because they've given away all their first-rounders. How are they going to rebuild?
I don't know, but they've done it.
They're not listening to your dynasty rules, man. You got to hold on to those first rounders.
We just started doing dynasty this year. I mean, the show should have been last year. But they won a Super Bowl. Hey, they won a Super Bowl. So
what it's all about.
Yep.
Right. If you are Rollins, would you trade James Conner to Moreau for one of Moreau's 23 second rounders? James Conner is oldish.
Yes, I would.
Agree.
Cool. That's it from for us, guys. Any parting words? Do you guys think it's going to be a big trade? A lot of trades done this week in Dynasty, or not really?
I don't think so. There's been such a flurry of trades this year. I don't know what else can be dealt here. It's nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting some trade offers and stuff like that, and I'm trying to keep my cool a little bit too at the same time as I get these. Like, I'll tell you one thing: don't ever do this. Like, the one thing I hate, and I don't know if you guys don't care or whatever, but like, don't come at me like saying like, oh, this website ranks this trade as being beneficial for you, right? Like, F that shit. So don't ever do that to me. I don't care what a website says or anything else. That will get under my skin. So, but I don't know how you guys feel about that. But I think that's
Keelan has been texting me, and Bender has been texting me all day. So Keelan was telling me about it.
We got into it a little bit for sure.
To be transparent, I did the same thing with Keelan. Like, I think I was having just a rough day last week, and he sent me some trade offer, and I text bitched him out, and then like a little bit later, I was like, I'm sorry,
Calmer heads will prevail for sure. You just got to put the phone down when, like, at times like that.
I was like, "You're a horrible person." Just nothing get personal. All right, guys, that does it for us. Good luck this week in Clowntown, and there's always next year, and we'll see you next week.
Like this channel, hit that subscribe button, smash it. Let's go.